So just for the stupid people among me that don't know history and haven't studied this enough. So Roger Smith was the parole officer for Charles Manson. He was a part of a project called the San Francisco Project in the 60s, the mid to late 60s. And this project supposedly was about lowering recidivism rates in inmates through commuting their sentences through other methods purportedly. And so Roger Smith would commute Charles Manson's sentences every time he would end up in jail. And at one point there were, I should say, people in the criminal justice system that were trying to get Charles back into jail. But Roger Smith and the people on his side fought against it, and he didn't go back to jail. Roger Smith would also commute the girls' sentences, not just Charles' sentences. And then Charles, it's arguable exactly what this factors in, what it is, but on some level he mind controlled people through LSD and had them join his cult. It was an underground criminal cult of personality that he developed. And I think he had a lot of help doing it. Just look at Roger Smith, for example. So when I compare Charles Manson and Roger Smith to Donald Trump, here's where we make the leap. I'm talking about a political cult of personality that has a criminal underground to it. Donald Trump is a felon, and he doesn't have any concerns or qualms with pardoning other felons, other people that are on his side of the equation that are not in good standing with law and order. So on that level, he is like Roger Smith. He doesn't really actually care about what is going on here criminally. He just wants to pardon someone for some ulterior motive. Because when you look at the San Francisco Project, we can now prove that it was a CIA cover through the National Institutes of Mental Health. So the CIA had their thumb on that. And he's like Charles Manson because, look, he did not tell his followers to attack people. He didn't say to kill anyone, just like Charlie never told Tex to kill anyone, purportedly. But I would say both of these figures, when we're looking at Charlie and Donnie Boy, they're similar in the reality that they condone violence. They allow it to happen. Charlie was the leader of that group. If he had stood up and pointed a gun at Tex and said, "You are not going to Cielo Drive today. You are not going to do anything to harm anyone. And if you go anywhere today, you're going to do something to help someone." What do you think Tex would have done? In this kind of brotherly criminal love that they had for each other, what do you think would have happened? And similarly, if Donald Trump had stood up and said, "Listen, we're going to bring in the National Guard if you guys go attack the Capitol here. Keep it non-violent. If you're going to protest, no violence. Absolutely no violence for my followers is what I want to see." And the moment there was violence, the National Guard came in there. The moment there was violence, Charlie is over there and he disables Tex in my other example. Well, then what would be the result? There would have been no January 6th insurrection. There would have been no Tate LaBianca murders, as well as Hinman, as well as probably Tenorelli, as well as John Doe. I forget what number she is, and I forget her name. There's all these other figures in the Charles Manson thing, if you look into it, that it seems like they murdered quite a few people, not just the three that I mentioned. So anyway, technicalities or facts aside of that, this is what I'm saying. This is if you have Charles Manson and Roger Smith in one person. and he's allowed to be a president. And you cannot get to this point unless you have studied Charles and the girls and Roger Smith and everything that happened there. This is like the next step up from that. Like, oh, so we did an underground criminal cult of personality. Now we're going to do an overt political yet criminal cult of personality. And we're looking at what happened with Charles and the girls. And, you know, if I'm Don and his people in the government, I can look at all those documents. I can look at the parole file of Charles Manson that's never been released to the public. His people can study this in great detail and come to conclusions as to how to continue their cult of personality, make sure it's the success that they so want it to be. So it's a pretty stupid look, right? You know, we go from Charles Manson and the girls to now Donald Trump and the MAGAites. And there's really not that much difference other than one was underground, one was more covert. And it only became overt towards the end of it. This one's overt and right in your face from day one. Thank you.